Okay, so let's look at the functions. Okay, this is really dealing with the chapter 9. Okay, so this is also included in your homework set. So the question is, what is a function? Okay, so basically, a function is a relationship, okay, where the x-coordinate does not repeat. And so, and I have relations, so we have a set x sub n, y sub 1, where you have different x values and different y values. So looking at this example here, we have, in this set, we have the points 1, 2, negative 1, 2, 0, 3, and 4, 5, okay? And so based on the definition of a function, this is considered a function, even though you can clearly see the y values repeat, but for a function to exist, it says that it exists only if the x value does not repeat. So this is a function because no x value repeats. Now, what I did is I flipped the coordinates around, and I have 2, 1, 2, negative 1, 3, 0, 5, 4. Now notice the difference. Here, x repeats. So if x repeats, this is not a function because the x value repeated. All right, now just let's go over the domain and the range, and then we'll look at some examples from your homework. The domain is dealing with your x values of your set. So if we're looking at a relation, then we would pick the x value. So for this one here, the domain of this relation would be 1, negative 1, 0, and 4. Okay, and that will be written as a set. Okay, so you would have 1, negative 1, 0, and 4. Okay, if you're writing just the x values. The range will be the y value. So that would be 2, you don't have to repeat it, 2, 3, and 5. And so 2, 3, and 5. Okay, so because we have a finite points in a set, so we're able to write the domain and the y values in that format, okay, as a set. Okay, now when you're dealing with the function, the equation, or the graph, then when we find the domain, we have, infinite number of points. So we write it in interval notation, okay? So this is the interval notation. Okay, so interval notation form, and so this is the closed bracket. And then you have the open brackets. Open brackets mean it's not inclusive, okay? And you cannot bound infinity or negative infinity. So they'll always have open brackets. But if it has a point on the graph, then we can use closed brackets, okay? And so when we write the domain or the range in interval notation, is always the minimum value and then the largest value. And so when you do the domain, it's like you're looking from left to right for the x values, okay? And with the range, we'll look in, for the minimum, we look down. So the view, let me see, the view is down, up, okay? So you look down and then go up, okay? So the minimum, look down to get the minimum and then go up to get the maximum. So I know it sounds, we'll look at it for a visual view. All right, so that's dealing with the function, the domain, and the range. So let's look at some homework problems. All right, so here it says this is number 25, determine whether the relation is a function, give the domain and the range for the relation, okay? And so it asks you, is this relation a function? Is it? No, okay, because we see that the 5s repeat. So we would click on no, it's not a function. So we check it. Notice that this is the final check, so it only gives you one attempt to get it right. Okay, so that's good. So it's not a function. Now the domain of the relation, okay, again, you just write down the x values. So it's already in the bracket. So you just write, and we have 5, 0, and 5. So we only write 1, 5. Okay, so 5 and 0. So put a comma, 5, comma, 0. Okay. And so that would be your domain. Now, anytime you have a question help, remember that you can still go to view an example. Okay, and view an example will give you a similar problem that you can see as a guide to do your own problem. Okay, and it gives you reasons why. And so you just click continue to see it, and then write, and you see how they write the answer. Okay, and so that gives you an idea. So let's check this one. Very good. And then write the range. The range deals with the y value. So that's 7, 5, and 8. So 7, 5, then 8. Okay, just make sure I got commas, it's not periods. Check. Very good. So that's finding the domain and range, dealing with the relation. Okay, it's not a function. Now here, there is another way to determine whether a relation is a function. Okay, if you have a graph. So by the graph, let me put this. If I have a graph, there is another test. So another test is called the vertical line test. Okay, function if vertical line passes through only one point on the graph. Okay. All right. So if I put a vertical line, okay, so I only cross one point. So that means that it is a function. So it says to answer the question, does a relation define a function? And so we've already established that it does. So it's between A and C. So what does A say? It says because at least one vertical line intersects the graph of a relation in no more than one point, which that's true. Okay, let's look at the C. Yes, because every vertical line intersects the graph of a relation in no more than one graph. Okay, so basically here, this says 1. So any vertical line. So this one is more, any vertical line. This says at least 1 in no more than one point. And this says in no more than one point. It says because every vertical line intersects the graph of a relation. And no more than one point. So this says at least one vertical line intersects the graph of a relation in no more than one point. So how do we distinguish which one is the correct one? We drew a vertical line. It says at least 1. So at least 1. So meaning that if we did another one, so it shouldn't matter how many vertical lines. So every vertical line intersects the graph of a relation in no more than one point. Okay, so let's see. They sound so much. I mean, this is, but every vertical line intersects. So let's see if we are correct. Because they sound, let me see, because every vertical line intersects the graph of a relation. Okay, this is where it points, and no more than one point. All right, because at least one in the graph of relations, no more. Okay, it says the same thing. All right, so let's see. This is the final check. Very good. Okay, and so with the first one here, it was saying that at least one vertical line intersects. So, but any vertical line that you draw should intersect in no more than one point for it to be a function. All right, so that was a tricky one. Now it says, what is the domain of the relation? All right, so let's look at it again. And let's see. Now, to find the domain when dealing with the graph, dealing with a straight line, okay, remember that this line, a line goes on forever. It does not stop. Okay, so it's going to go on forever. So if I want to find the domain, I want to look for the minimum x value. Okay, so that means I'm looking to the left. Okay, so if I look to the left, okay, so that one is going continue to go out. So if I look to the left, that's going to continue to go out. What is the minimum x value? So the minimum x value would be, and this is going all the way up. Okay, it's negative infinity, right? And I cannot bound negative infinity. What will be the maximum x value? Again, that's going to continue to go down. And so what would be the maximum x value? Very good, infinity. So all real numbers, okay, in this case, especially when dealing with a slant line. So all real numbers. So in interval notation form, it's negative infinity, comma infinity, and it's open brackets. Okay, remember this is open bracket, because you cannot close infinity. Okay, all right, so let's go back and let's put it in. And you can use your computer. So open, and then I'll hit the negative on my computer, and then hit this infinity, and then comma, and then hit positive infinity, and I'll close it with the bracket above my 0. So we'll check that and see if we're correct. Good, fantastic. And now the range. The range again deals with the y value. Okay, so I'm looking down to up. So basically, all right, let me capture this again. So again, this one continues to go, this axis goes up and the line continues. All right, so this time I'm looking down. Okay, down, the minimum y value looking down would be what? Negative infinity, right? But the maximum y value would be what? Positive infinity. Again, so that's all real numbers. So in interval notation, I have to do open bracket, negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, so that's the range. Very good. And again, I have to put it in. So that's negative infinity, comma, and then positive infinity, that. Okay, and then check. Very good. Okay. All right, so now we're getting to bending we get into curves, okay? Non-linear functions or equations, and we have to determine whether the relation is a function, give the domain and the range. It says using the vertical line test is the graph of a function. So let me capture this, put it on the board. All right. Okay. All right, come on. Are you gonna capture? All right, so it doesn't want to capture, okay? Let's look at this. Oh, now it does, okay. Come on. All right, so until it does, all right, so let's look at it this way. All right, so basically if we draw a vertical line through the graph, anywhere, any vertical line on here, does it cross more than one point on the graph? No, it does not. Okay, here we go. All right, so no, it does not. Okay, you can draw any vertical line and it only crosses one point on the graph at a time, okay? So yes, function. All right, so how do you find the domain? Domain deals with the x values. Now, again, the x value, okay, this is going to continue to go out, okay? So the minimum x value, where is this going, okay? Where is it going? Okay, I'm exaggerating, but it's continuing to go out, okay? So it goes to negative infinity, okay, from left and to right. This is going to continue to go out. So what is the maximum x value? So maximum will be positive infinity. Okay, so all real numbers again. Now, however, when you find the range, when you find the range, all right, I'm looking down, okay? So I'm looking down, okay, but I'm looking at the y value. So the minimum y value, okay, is negative infinity, right? So again, that's negative infinity. But what's the maximum? Okay, so the max, see, it peaks out right here. Right here, that's the peak. So that's the maximum y value. It's the corresponding y coordinate. Okay, the corresponding y coordinate is 2. So that's 2, but we can close that. That's inclusive. Okay, so this would be your range. So this was your domain just by looking at it left to right, and the range from bottom to the top. It peaks out here. So we include this. All right, so that is your range and your domain and range. Okay, so we said that yes, this is a function, and the domain are row numbers but interval notation form. We have to put in, let's see, that negative infinity and comma infinity. Not sure why that's in red. Okay, here we go. Check. Very good. And the domain, we said we have this negative infinity. And I think, yeah, that looks like it. I didn't maximize it, but it looks like it's at 2. 2, and we want to use a closed bracket. So you have closed bracket on your computer also. All right, and so let's see. I don't know why it's in red though. Okay, and that looks like that's at 2. Mm-hmm. Check. Very good. Don't know why it's in red. All right, it changed. All right, this one here is different. Okay, now, all right, let's get this. We have to determine whether this relation is a function, get the domain and range, right? So here, if we draw a vertical line this time here, what happens? Well, it crosses more than one point on the graph. So no, not a function. Very good. It's not a function because it crossed more than one point on the graph. What it's saying is that the x-coordinate repeated, okay? That's what it's saying, okay? So that's why it's not a function. So it says, does a relation define a function? We said no. So it's between B and C. It says, B says because at least one vertical line intersects the graph more than once. And then C says no, because every vertical line intersects the graph. So yeah, this is the same, point as the other one. So every vertical line, okay, intersects the graph in, oh, okay, yeah, so why does it say that? No, okay, so in no more than one point. So that's not true, okay, because it intersects in more than one point. This one says no, because at least one vertical line intersects the graph more than once. Okay, I don't like the word. Okay, so that one. So between these two nodes, not a function, okay? This one doesn't even say that it says it intersects in no more than one point. It clearly goes through more than one point. Okay. All right, so we'll pick B. All right, so we know it's no. All right, good. And the domain, when we find the domain, again, we're dealing with let me go back to the graph. Domain deals with the x values this time, okay? So if I'm looking at the x value, let me put that back up here. I'm looking at the x value here, okay? Looking from left, again, that's going to continue to go out. And so the minimum x value, okay, would be what? Negative infinity, right? So we can't bound that. But what is going to the right? What's the maximum here? Ooh, we stop. It's peak. And what is that at? That looks like it's at -1. So -1, and we close that. So that would be the domain, okay, the domain. And what about the range this time? It's like the opposite. So with the range, it's like we're looking down to up, okay? So again, that's going to continue to go out. That's going to continue to go out, right? And so looking down, the minimum will be negative infinity. However, the maximum, that's going to continue to go out. The max would be positive infinity. Okay, there's no no stopping. It keeps going, okay? Whereas the domain, we stop, okay? That was a peak area, okay? So, all right, so we got the domain and the range. All right, so negative infinity to -1 is the domain. Notice that it's closed at -1 because it's included. We don't know what negative infinity is, so we can't bound it, can't include it. Okay, do you see that? Good. So the domain, we got what? Negative infinity, comma, a space, and then we had what? -1. And then close. Check. Very good. And the range is all real numbers, so negative infinity, comma, infinity. All right, and then check. Very good. Good. So that tells you about functions and relations and how to find the domain and the range of a function, whether you're just dealing with a relation and writing it in set format, or if you write in the interval notation as we just finished doing. Okay, so know the difference between the open bracket and the closed bracket. It makes a difference. Okay, so if you close both of them, it's going to count you wrong. All right, so hopefully this has been helpful. If you have questions, please let me know.